Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is heavy bullets. Or should I say heavy bollocks, because good lord, this thing is infuriating. It is by a fellow called Terri Vellmann, who, after this game is released, was indicted for war crimes. This is tricky, let's just put it that way. It is a first-person shooter with roguelite elements. It's a randomly generated maze in which you have a gun that has some rather heavy bullets. It looks something along the lines of this. You may have noticed I haven't looked at the options menu yet. I'm experimenting with a change to the format where we're going to jump right into the game, and then we'll deal with things like options a little bit later on. I'll see whether or not you like that. So welcome to a very strange-looking world indeed. Something perhaps along the lines of Hotline Miami in its trippy aesthetic, although obviously very, very basic. What can I buy? Nothing, because I've got no money. It sits there taunting me. Although, I can destroy it. I think. Although, I think I've got to destroy it with bombs, if I recall correctly. Let's try and blow that thing up. Actually, do I have any bombs? There we go. I think I can blow this vending machine up. There we go. And as a result, I can get a couple of coins from it, which, if I recall correctly, is not enough to replace the cost of the bomb. So what's the point? Get to the end of level 8 is the point. Sounds easy enough, right? It isn't. Absolutely not. You have a revolver with 6 rounds in it. These rounds are heavy bullets, meaning that you can pick them up again, oh lord! Thank you very much. And of course you have to reload them manually, and there's one of my bullets is around here somewhere. There we go. And when you kill the enemies, they will drop coins and so on and so forth. But once you die, yeah, indeed, it's roguelite. That means you're dead for good and you have to start the bloody thing all over again. That said, it does have some features designed somewhat against that. The bank, for instance, allows you to deposit and withdraw money in between play sessions even after you die. If you don't wish to risk trying to find a bank, you can buy the Last Will and life insurance. Life insurance will allow you to progressively upgrade the amount of money that will drop when you die and can be used in the next playthrough. Last Will is an item that you carry around, which I believe allows you to maintain all of your cash, but only if you have that item in your usable inventory slot, of which, needless to say, there's very, very little. You have one inventory slot by default, and you can expand it eventually with upgrades. Oh, because a bloody... God. You can upgrade it with something called Carrying Plus, and you can also get a backpack, which will allow you to swap items out between your active inventory and some storage. What do we have here? We have ourselves some repellent. As you can see down the bottom of the screen, it repels snakes and bugs. Fairly short description of the item, which gives reasonable information. And then above that, you can see some of the upgradable stats, which can be purchased from the various stores. Now, this is all fine and good, as far as I'm concerned. Everything up there seems to be relatively self-explanatory. The problem that I have is that this information is only given, one, on the pause screen, which really is not a great place to put it. You don't want to be constantly pausing to find out that information where possible. It should be a little bit more accessible. And secondly, the information is not available in the store, so if you don't know what that item is, you can end up buying something that's completely worthless. Tooltips in-game would be great. Should I get... Yeah, let's get Carry Plus. There we go. Now, so far, this has not been going too badly, has it? Well, it's going alright at the moment. Level 1 is not particularly difficult, as long as you are bloody careful. The game absolutely loves to hide monsters behind parts of the terrain. And it does a damn good job of it, because a lot of the monsters are the same bloody color as the terrain. Ah, I see. So Carry Plus allows you to carry more consumables like bombs and so forth. Unfortunately, it doesn't let you carry more items. You do need a backpack for that. So, still stuck with carrying capacity for one item. Okay, so never mind. Mouse smoothing is on. I've got to turn that bloody thing off. There we go. Not really sure what's going on with that then. This ore chunk I know I can sell, so I'm going to keep a hold of that and see if I can sell it at a vending machine for money. And I can't sell it there. I've got to go to a bank, I believe. Assuming I can find one. That's the basis of the game. You run around with this gun that shoots bullets which must be retrieved, because you only have 6 of them, and each bullet is actually quite expensive. You can also do neat things. Oh, God! Why would you... It's the same color as the bush! That's not even remotely fair. And later on in the game, I found some snakes that are the same color as the bush, and they poison you. For yet more damage. Good lord. Oh, it's just absolutely sickeningly evil. Can I say? Sickeningly evil. But yes, the revolver involves picking up the bullets again, which means that spamming shots is a particularly poor idea, and it rewards accuracy. Oh, again? Again? Same bloody snake. I'm now on half health. Lovely. You know, alright, I see him in there. There he is. This is going to be a nightmare for colorblind people, I can only imagine. Although, to be fair, I'm not colorblind, I still can't see the bloody thing, so... Who on earth knows at this point? Who on earth knows? But that's the basis of the game. There are secrets to find, there are shops which will give you items and upgrades, and once you die, you die. And of course, you can get some of your stuff back if you store it in a bank or if you buy Last Will or the life insurance, but that really is about it. Now, the game only has one gun. You can upgrade only very limited aspects of it, as you can see here. You can upgrade reload, and you can upgrade bullet magnet, but outside of that, this thing is a one-shot kill on every enemy that I've encountered up to this point. I would assume that if the game has bosses, and I don't know because I've never been good enough to bloody reach them yet. I'm poisoned again, I know, I'm just... Alright, at least we can sell this. Sell the ore chunk, there we go. I don't know if there are bosses, I have to assume that there are. I think I am poisoned. Oh, bloody hell, why? Should I buy... Let me deposit all my money before I die. Because I think I'm about to. There we go. You can see that I'm clearly poisoned here. I don't know if there are bosses. I see the 4th and 8th levels highlighted in pink, which does kind of make me assume that there are bosses of some description. But that's hard to say. Everything else is a one-shot, and the way that they make it interesting is by making some of the enemies not obvious, and also they deploy turrets from time to time that can only be killed by shooting their power boxes, which are found usually very close to the turret, linked to it, but they can be a little bit of a difficult shot at times. I'm surprised I haven't run into any yet. There's usually some on the 1st and 2nd level. Oh, I don't even want to go in here. Good lord. There's one! Alright, we found one, and that could very well kill me if I'm not careful. Yep! I am dead. And that, as they say, is that. Well, restart, here we go, but at least I'm able to keep the cash because I was able to deposit, at least most of the cash anyway, because I deposited it before I died. That's what it is. Hello. Shall I grab this? It is a leech stone. I have no idea what that does, but we will certainly give it a try. That's the game in a nutshell. Very, very simple concept. It is a monster maze with a gun that has limited ammunition, which you have to go and pick up. It rewards accuracy, and it rewards very, very careful movement, for the most part. Slowly advancing through the different rooms to make sure that you're not ambushed and killed. Now, you are probably well aware by this point of my opinion on games that emphasize roguelite mechanics, and this game is no exception. It is a first-person shooter. It is most assuredly a maze in the classic FPS style. However, it also emphasizes things like permadeath. It emphasizes things like the acquisition of items that have very... I wouldn't even say... Yeah, let's just say they don't have very obvious effects. And I do find that kind of stuff pretty annoying in most of the roguelite games that I play. Although it is a problem that solves itself over time. It makes it tricky and kind of annoying at the start, but once you learn what everything does, it's fine. That said, I don't really like to be put off so much when I start a game. I don't like the idea that it's asking me to buy items that are perhaps not so obvious in functionality, or, in the case of this, asking me to drop an item in favor of another item when I don't even know what that item actually does, because the carrying capacity is super limited. It's a fairly annoying feature of anything that involves roguelike or roguelite mechanics, but I also think it's part of the genre that those that enjoy the genre really dig. They like the mystery, they like the discovery aspects of it. I can see why they would. I'm personally not somebody that shares that opinion, I have to say. What I will say is the same thing that I've said about almost every other FPS that uses roguelite mechanics, and that's that the emphasis on one gun is a serious detriment to my enjoyment of the game. I think that's because I'm the sort of person that really enjoyed very, very old school FPS. And as a result, I am also the... Let's just withdraw some of that, shall we? There we go. I'm also the sort of person that enjoys gradually upgrading my weapons arsenal as I go through, because it promotes diversity in combat. Heavy Bullets does the exact opposite of that. Its combat is very, very similar. You have one gun, it handles in the same way. You shoot the enemy, it dies. You pick up the bullet, you rinse and repeat. There are different enemies, that's what varies things up. But outside of that, and outside of the items that you can get, such as bombs, you are going to be fairly limited in terms of what the combat can really offer you. And then, I suppose you've got to wonder, really, is it actually a first-person shooter in anything more than the most basic sense of the word? And you could probably answer that question by saying, well, no, that's not really its function. The gun is simply a means to an end. It allows you to traverse the level. And you might say, well, that sounds pretty pretentious, because that's every FPS in a nutshell, right? Yes, but it seems like the mechanic is used in a very utilitarian way. The game doesn't in any way focus on the gun. The bloody thing. The game does not focus on the gun. It makes the gun a limiting factor when it comes to dealing with obstacles. It promotes careful shooting, and it promotes resource conservation, at least to some degree. I've never really seen the 6 bullets as an actual problem, because you would have to be so ludicrously inaccurate for it to matter in any way, especially when the game usually only throws about 2 to 3 at most enemies at you, that it really doesn't even become part of the experience at all. It's a nice idea. Hey, the bullets are heavy, the bullets drop, pick up the bullets again. But does it really benefit the experience all that much? I don't really think so, at least not in the early levels. That may not be the case later on. It may be that resource conservation is extremely important later on, but in this case, I am not 100% sure. Shall I shoot through here? You can do this, by the way. There we go. And that, well, I didn't expend the bullets because they bounced off, but that has given me access to a red potion, which I will eat. Thank you very much, and I'll pick up the knife again. This is a melee weapon, by the way. Apparently, it can also be used for a couple of other things, but God knows what. The timing on using this thing is really, really irritating. Supposedly, you could conserve ammunition, but really, do you need to conserve ammunition? I don't think so, at least not again, in the early levels. I can definitely see why some people would enjoy this. But there are a few things that I definitely don't like. The focus on that single weapon makes the game extremely repetitive, in my honest opinion. But it's also possible that I'm looking for something entirely different. I think if you're going to make a first-person shooter, your one gun, if you're going to do that, better be damn interesting. And frankly, the revolver that shoots heavier bullets isn't really all that interesting. Does it actually affect the gunplay? No. It doesn't. This is, as far as I can tell, either a hit scan or extremely high-velocity weapon, so you never have to lead the target or anything. Really, it only affects ammo conservation. And hitting all of these fairly large enemies as they come at you accurately isn't really that difficult. It's not requiring you to do anything like headshots. You just shoot the rather large, bulky body of the enemies that's coming at you and it falls over. So I'm not really a big fan of that, and I found the game to be repetitive and somewhat dull as a direct result. As I mentioned earlier, really dislike the idea of not telling you what items actually bloody do. If we have a look in the pause screen for ore, for instance, all it says is valuable item. Does the game have a crafting system? No, this is just to sell. God damn it! It would be really, really... And I lost all my money there as well. Oh, so frustrating. It would just be nice to know what this stuff actually does without me having to dig in an FAQ for it. But again, I understand that some people enjoy the mystery. I personally do not. I also don't really like the aesthetic. Again, I mentioned that it's very utilitarian, as is a lot of this game in particular, but I don't find the aesthetic to be particularly pleasing. I actually think it's a bit of an eyesore. This is particularly true when you're low on health. The game pulses in such a way that it actually gave me a headache. Now, most of the enemies don't blend into the background, but those damn snakes on the ground most assuredly do. And the bomb bugs are pink, as are many parts of the walls, which I find to be particularly poor design. Did they do this on purpose? To make you extra careful? Possibly, but I don't enjoy it all that much, frankly. It's a fairly simple game. It's a fairly simple concept. Oh, that bloody snakes. It's a fairly simple concept. It is a punishing brutal experience. And some people are really going to enjoy that. There are various games that have attempted to do this good old idea of a first-person roguelite. I don't know if Heavy Bullets is the best example. I think Tower of Guns is a much better example. It has more enemy diversity. It has more weapon diversity, even though you can't really switch mid-game. It's got, of course, weapon upgrades. It has just a bunch of different mechanics tacked on top of that, and it's also quite a nice-looking game. I've got to say, the random generation of Tower of Guns is surprisingly impressive. Whereas, while this maze is certainly functional, I'm not massively enthralled by the random generation at all. Although there are some nice elements like secrets that pop up here and there, and it will deliberately block off areas with rocks, although there doesn't seem to be a penalty for breaking them because the bullets will simply bounce off and you can pick them up again. So ultimately, who cares? You know? It's really not a particularly difficult thing to deal with. I don't really like it, honestly. I find it very, very frustrating, as you've probably already noticed. That really is my fault. You know I'm not particularly good at roguelite experiences, and there are very few of them that I actually enjoy. So I think if you are the sort of person that's an aficionado for this sort of thing, then you might be seeing a lot of things within this video that you like, and that's the... Ooh, I think there's something behind there. That is the wonder of this format, isn't it? I can go on for 15 minutes about how much I bloody hate it, and you could still purchase it because you saw something within this video that you really liked, whereas I did not. That's neat, isn't it? What a cool concept. But I'm not too into it, honestly. I don't find it all that appealing. The minimalist use of music is a little bit annoying as well. I think they could have done a better job there. In fact, you can actually download the soundtrack for this, but the soundtrack barely kicks in, which is perhaps a little bit strange. It's kicked in now, but a lot of the game involves, for the most part, silence. Cool, health up. There we go. I can see where they were going with it. I think it's a nice framework for a game, but compared to the other titles in the genre, I think it's somewhat threadbare, I have to say. And I'd have just loved to see more done with the actual heavy bullets mechanic, rather than it simply being the title of the game and a feature which ultimately doesn't actually add anything to it, really. At least not in the early levels. As I said before, it's a first impression. I could be very wrong when it comes to the mechanic later on, but from what I've experienced in, I believe it was about 2 to 3 hours of play, not really getting past level 3 because I'm goddamn terrible at it, I've not seen any real benefit to that mechanic existing. Alright, so as promised, we'll have a quick look at the options. There's not really a lot to see here, as you might imagine. You do have fully rebindable controls, and as I mentioned earlier, it has mouse smoothing, which is default on for some reason. Not really sure what's going on with that. If we head over to settings, you will notice that it has things like anti-aliasing, SSAA, NLAA. I don't even know what NLAA actually is. Northern Lion Anti-Aliasing? I don't know. They probably just made some of these up, but I have SSAA on, and the game performs just fine, as you might imagine. Field of view slider, which goes all the way up to 120, which might be nice, and it goes down to 70. I can't imagine why you want to do that, because the game is really keen on having monsters sneak around corners and hit you, so you want maximum FOV to avoid that. Shadows, VSync, sound, music options here and there. There doesn't appear to be an option to have permanent music on, which would actually be nice. And you've got an FPS cap, which the game seems to ignore completely. It says cap to 60, it's running at 120 on my system, so that's a little bit weird. Not sure what's on that. It also says tooltips on, but I have not seen any evidence at all that tooltips even exist in this game. I mean, the game doesn't actually have mouse control outside of the menus, so I don't really know what it would be referring to there. And even in the log here, it doesn't seem to tell you anything. You can't scroll down the log either, so that's a little bit strange. Little bit odd, to say the least. But there you go, folks. Heavy Bullets. I am personally not a fan, I have to say. I think that with more development, more content, and perhaps a few other weapons based on this Heavy Bullets mechanic that are actually kind of meaningful, I would love to see, say, a shotgun, something that fired out multiple rounds that you would have to collect. Something that could be particularly devastating, but a very risky weapon to use in certain scenarios because it would spread the ammunition everywhere. I would love to see ammunition that maybe had a chance to shatter, but perhaps had some kind of special functionality. Some kind of special ammunition that you could buy would, I think, be quite an interesting idea. I certainly think there's potential here, but in its current state, I don't particularly enjoy heavy bullets. I've got to be honest with you there. But again, it's a roguelite game, and I am not someone that really enjoys most of those, with some rare exceptions, like, say, Abyss Odyssey and Risk of Rain. Alright, folks, that is me done for this particular video. You have been having a look at Heavy Rain, not Heavy Rain, it's like, press E to Jason. Heavy Bullets, $10 or your regional equivalent. It is available on Steam. Thank you very much for watching, folks, and I will see you next time.